Hey everyone, hope you're doing good. So, we're reading Alexander Hamilton's paper, and it's titled, it's number 9, The Union as a Safeguard Against Domestic Faction and Insurrection. And we're on page 37 on the second paragraph. But it is not to be denied that the portraits they have sketched of Republican government were two just copies of the originals from which they were taken. If it had been found impracticable to have devised models of a more perfect structure, the enlightened friends to liberty would have been obliged to abandon the cause of that species of government as indefensible. So he's talking about perfect structure as in Republican government. Representatives. The science of politics, however, like most other sciences, has received great improvement. The efficacy of various principles is now well understood, which were either not known at all or imperfectly known to the ancients. The regular distribution of power into distinct departments. Think about that. That's a very cool way to phrase it. Regular, so consistent, functioning well, not too much gridlock. Distribution, how it's placed, right? In distinct departments. FBI, CIA, you could say NSA, the criminal justice system, the court system, even as like in different law branches, even they have their own departments. So it is like a central power just going out into these departments. What a cool way to phrase it. The introduction of legislative balances and checks, the institution of courts composed of judges holding their offices during good behavior, the representation of the people in the legislature by deputies of their own election. Notice this own election, so choosing, right? Representatives that are chosen, voted for. These are wholly new discoveries, or have made their principal progress towards perfection in modern times. They are means, and powerful means, by which the excellencies of republican government may be retained, and its imperfections lessened or avoided. So here is like really cool that Hamilton is admitting it may not be perfect, but we can lessen those imperfections and we can avoid them altogether if we try, right? To this catalog of circumstances that tend to the, so hold on, but look at that. Think about it. Catalog. So it's like there's many different brands of circumstances, contexts of circumstances, essentially, to tend to the amelioration of popular systems of civil government. I shall venture, however, novel it may appear to some, to add one more on a principle which has been made the foundation of an objection to the new Constitution. I mean the enlargement of the orbit within which such systems are to revolve. Enlargement of the orbit. Cool little space analogy there. Either in respect to the dimensions of a single state, or to the consolidation of several smaller states into one great confederacy. A single state or one great confederacy. The later is that which immediately concerns the object under consideration. It will, however, be of use to examine the principle in its application to a single state, which shall be attended to in another place. So the great old 13 colonies versus centralized federal government. The utility of a confederacy, as well to suppress faction. So notice this, he just contended that a confederacy helps suppress factions. Well, one could also say that factions are under one confederacy are still just factions, so we could contest his view on that. And to guard the internal tranquility of states. Notice how he's making it a virtue to promote tranquility in your states. That it's actually something that should be striven for, that should be guarded, protected, right? Sustained. Now, it almost feels a little bit of the opposite, doesn't it? It's almost like some places they want the unrest to be there for whatever agenda they have. So they're not really doing their duty in a Hamilton type of perspective, are they? as to increase their external force and security is in reality not a new idea. It has been practiced upon in different countries and ages, and has received the sanction of the most applauded writers on the subjects of politics. Received the sanction, so permissibility. He's very good at his rhetoric, gotta say. The opponents of the plan proposed have, with great assiduity, cited and circulated the observations of Montesquieu on the necessity of a contracted territory for a republican government. Contracted territory, look at that, cited and circulated. So not only have they cited their source, but they've circulated within the, wouldn't say news, but information stream, or on that vine, that grapevine. But they seem not to have been apprised of the sentiments of that great man expressed in other part of his work, nor to have adverted to the consequences of the principle to which they subscribe with such ready acquiescence. Subscribing with such ready acquiescence. Look at that. Tell him, Hamilton. It's a very good writer. When Montesquieu recommends a small extent for republics, the standards he had in view were of dimensions far short of the limits of almost every one of these states. Neither Virginia, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, New York, North Carolina, nor Georgia can by any means be compared with the models from which he reasoned and to which the terms of his description apply. Why not? Let's see if he tells us. If we therefore take his ideas on this point as the criterion of truth, we shall be driven to the alternative either of taking refuge at once in the arms of a monarchy. Oh, look at that. Okay. So we're going to see this choice here. Taking refuge at once in the arms of a monarchy, so quickly turning to the monarchy to save them, right? Or of this splitting ourselves into an infinity of little jealous, clashing, tumultuous commonwealths. Holy wow. Okay, so did you get what he just said there? It's a perfect explanation of the dangers of factions, and what is a faction today is identity politics. This is why it's important to read the Founding Fathers. Everyone makes mistakes in history. However, their brains and the way in which they think are very valuable to make you realize that, hey, when it comes to politics, you have to read what others have said. And Hamilton is such a man that you should read. So infinity, so just this endless rabbit hole of identities, right? So jealousy, yes, there is a lot. Privilege, so what is that today? People accuse each other of privilege. You have cisgender privilege. You have white privilege. Some will say, oh, you have black privilege. Others will say, you have immigrant privilege. Just people all day pointing fingers at each other for privilege, essentially. Clashing. So what do you have? The culture war, right? The culture war on social media, for example, when it comes to advertisers and who they will pull away from real quick and who they will stick by. Clashing also related to tumultuousness, so chaotic. So the way in which the journalists cover different political parties and these large news networks, often clashing against each other, not for the sake of truth, but for, RNC, DNC matters and profits, right? Revenue streams. Commonwealths, so communities. People will break off into different commonwealth communities. Oh, this is the immigrant community, this is the LGBTQ community, this is the black community, this is the Asian community, right? They have their own commonwealths, and what are they doing? They're breaking themselves into little factions instead of being united under one government, under a more balanced system. And again, this is quite interesting, the way in which Hamilton is making us think. The wretched nurseries of unceasing discord. Again, so nurseries, birthing. People have accused the colleges of producing brainwashed fanatics in Marxist communism and not getting enough civics education or Republican communication with each other, right? Unceasing discord, so not in harmony. When you're discord, it's just unceasing discord is just going off. It's just never ending, just constant whining and drama, right? Breaking off into smaller and smaller factions. Wow. What a brilliant writer.